Jester is defined as a professional fool. A clown, a witticism, a joke, a prank, but I beg you to consider the jester as purely an infection, hidden deep within the bones, employed to entertain a room full of wilted faces, mouths agape, bottom jaws blown off amidst explosions, faceless silhouettes, pointing, laughing. The jester begins to dance slowly, whittles away at an unremarkable tune, its bells ringing jokingly, watered gunshots fired off in the distance, an environment in eruption. The jester stops, considers itself a broken rib cage, reaches deep within its chest, and pulls out all that is left of this infection, sets it down on a table, swaddles it tightly and nurses it back to health, then gestures towards the audience, raises a hand, but suddenly becomes uncomfortable with the returned silence. So the jester begins to undress itself, revealing the carved plastic housing its bones, a molded cocoon for a nauseating illness, and dreadfully the jester begins to yell, "Pull any string you'd like. I will make for an exceptional story," and the crowd begins to garner their attention. They rev up their engines, pulling their tongues like starter cords, rusty and neglected yet breathing. They respond, "Can the jester fall in love? Give us dogs," they yell, "but make them unleashed, make them thieves. We want the jester to fall in love, please." Would they like me then? The jester wonders, then points at a dainty, handsome box jellyfish, reaches out for a tentacle and watches it contract and relax its way onto the stage, a heartbeat irking for attention. And they begin to talk for hours about their favorite movies, birthmarks, memories, mysteries, brutalities, the concept of time, a clockwork universe, plants, the curled coils in their hair, the beauty in proximity, the inescapable horrors of distance, rationality, the pangs of hunger that strike at the latest hours in the night. Homes, jobs, books, runny noses, the pleasure they find in napping, the beauty in skin, acne, coffee, their perspectives on dying, the apoptosis of cells, statistics, blindness, elevators, satire, their favorite spices, and the color orange. Suddenly, the jester forgets that she is nothing more than a performance, and basks in this vagueness for a little longer. Stares into the jellyfish's eyes and admires how the beam of light from the back of the stage hits his irises just right, revealing shades of brown she had no idea even existed, and she stays just a little longer, noticing how he mimics a lamplighter, employed to maintain gas street lights, a profession no longer in demand, and quickly he begins to talk about a Dickie Pierce, the last known court jester to perform, who overbalanced and fell to his own death, making jestering a profession no longer in demand. Noticing how every time he breathes out, a plane leaves a condensation trail up in the sky, noticing how his throat begins to pulse when he talks of his own lankiness, blood rushing to the tip of his nose, then quickly fluttering up to his forehead as he begins to speak of butterflies and how afraid they are of being caught, because even if you were to touch a butterfly gently, it loses a handful of scales, making it difficult for it to fly again, and suddenly the box jellyfish decides that he cannot fall in love with a piece of plastic, a professional fool, a clown, a witticism, a joke, a prank, and the crowd begins to laugh uncontrollably, a chronic tragedy. But I beg you to consider the jellyfish as simply an infection, one that you cannot nurse back to health, like a child unfolding their tongue to find the remnants of some forgotten language they vaguely but somehow remember, only for it to be mistaken as a common cold. Choosing to remember this vagueness will only turn you into a fish seeking to drown. The jester, on the verge of a stutter, bites her tongue, unwraps her infection, swallows it whole, bows down and wonders, do they like me now? I did what they asked of me. And the crowd begins to applaud uncontrollably. The jester changed jobs shortly after, took on a profession in retail pharmacy, counting pills for a living, the clangs and slashes of the dispensing equipment reverberating like unconvincing laughter. the ring of the telephone mimicking the rise and fall of a butterfly's wings, the knotted cord and outstretched hand offering back those broken scales. She lives out an entire lifetime ridding others of their infection, making sure they do not contract the disease of trying to remember. Yet the Jester was never particularly good at being a jester, and her costume hides, wrapped up behind the spice cabinet, remaining untouched, a butterfly afraid of losing its scales. And somehow, even to this day, the Jester remembers the box jellyfish speaking of a Jane Fool, the only known female court jester in history, and her cause of death or disappearance remaining unknown, losing one too many scales. But it's quite late now. When do you plan on coming home?